Hello and welcome to Illuminated Insights. Today I'm at Point Chevalier in the city of Auckland. This particular park is where I actually filmed one of my first videos some months back, so it's good to be back. And today I'm going to talk about a subject which I've called Meet the Teacher, and it effectively relates to education, and I'll tie that into my journey. So in terms of my formal education, I was sent to a primary school here in New Zealand, which was a religious-based primary school, Catholic faith, and we were taught by nuns and had to attend church, etc. But as we moved on to college, me and my sisters, we went to a public college, not the highest rated whatsoever, but it gave us good grounding in life, you know, just the basics of what we learn in the Western education system. And onwards from there, I went to university. So at university I studied accountancy, so that was very logical, black and white, numbers, very structured, lots of standards to follow. So I was conforming to the rigid way of education, and just I didn't know particularly any better. And moving on from that though, in my mid-20s, as I was facing a few personal difficulties, mainly relating around depression, etc., I started to think that there must be other information out there and other ways to look at things than what I had learned. So I started reading books in relation to what would be perhaps called New Age. So we're talking esoteric, spirituality, things like that. Although, as I say, interestingly enough, they call it New Age, but a lot of the stuff that's in those books relates to ancient cultures and ancient civilizations, so I would suggest a better term for those would be Old Age. And I was getting some insights into that side of life, but I continued on my mainstream sort of way of being, my mainstream path. And as time went by, I faced my ups and downs in life, and as anyone who's read my life story, which is on my website viviendolamahia.nz.com, or looked at any of my prior videos which are on Instagram, and all of these are free for people to look at or read, they'll know that in about 2016 I faced a really dark time, and I had to make a choice to get on a new path, which I call my spiritual journey. So I concentrated on that path, or getting on it. And in terms of that whole education and spirituality and tying that in, there is that term that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And through life, like perhaps a lot of us, we look outwards for answers and try and work things out. And I had a very logical brain of trying to work things out and wondering where the ultimate answers were. But it was only when I got on the spiritual journey, and more so of recent years, that I have had the greatest learnings of all. And the greatest learnings of all have been certainly of the spiritual nature, and they're ones that I actually learned through experience. And how I learned them through experience was through me actually applying myself to the path. And I realized that I was my greatest teacher. So my prior teachers had taught me information that they were required to do, but it's so structured and so limited. You can't find all the answers in textbooks or through others. But if you tune into the universe, or can tune into the universe, as I have, that's where all the answers lay. So you have direct access to all the answers. So, if I was to sort of talk about mainstream education, I didn't learn much there at all. I learned a lot to get me forward in a Western society kind of lifestyle, but I've learned so much more, and so many more important things about the true meaning of life since I've been on my spiritual journey. And I would go so far as to say we don't learn about these things at all, literally in sort of primary school or college or even university. I'm sure there's specialised courses that you can take, but it's not taught as a matter of course. So, in summing up, I believe that we are our own greatest teacher, So we meet the teacher is when we meet ourselves. And how we meet ourselves is discover our true being. We strip away what we were taught. I talk about the death of the ego, the conditioning, getting rid of all of that. We discover that we're actually the divine source ourselves. And the divine source that runs through us is the universe. And having access to all the answers and being able to see them within oneself and interpret them and apply them, these are all the greatest lessons one could ever have. So perhaps my only closing statement on this would be that perhaps we need to realise that we are our own greatest teacher, and perhaps the earlier we can identify that as the case, the better. Anyway, as always, I'll ask you to enjoy the journey. We will meet when we should, and as always, namaste.